If you're following Johnny and Amber, and you have been for a little while, you might know there's a big Amber supporter who worked for The Sun and printed some horrible things about Johnny named Dan Wootton. Now, the thing is, and the problem for Dan, is that some allegations against him are coming up. Now, a lot of times, you'll see a YouTube video with the word shocking, destroyed, whatever. Well, I mean it this time. These are some actual shocking allegations against Dan. I can't read it all, not exactly as it is, but you'll definitely get the drift. I say that because of rules and regulations and stuff, and this is not for the faint of heart. Now, the thing is, this guy Kev here, with a big 1,700 followers, already has almost 3 million views on this tweet. That is crazy. That's a lot of views for a tweet. Let's get to it. Sunday on the 9th of November, 2014 is a date that changed my life forever. This was the date I attended the MTV Music Awards in Glasgow. It was an evening that should have had forever lasting great memories of a really enjoyable night, but that was not to be. That was the night I met Dan Wootton. That was the night he first met me, the person he already knew, myself. At that point in my life, I was working as an escort, something I genuinely had to do at that moment in time to survive, and the agony of that and having to disclose this is incredibly painful because I know exactly how that's viewed by certain judgmental people out there. This can easily be seen as a quick way to try and instantly discredit someone. Okay. Honestly, that's a whole different story. I'm not very concerned. I'm not here to pass judgment. I just want to see if this sounds credible or not as far as what Dan did, because that makes him one big hypocrite. I mean, worse than a hypocrite, because the stuff he accused Johnny of in print didn't happen. Now, here's the shocking part. This dangerous man drugged and aggressively R-worded me in the most degrading way, calling me a worthless, nameless piece of turd. I want to make it clear that Dan came to my hotel room door and used his knowledge to gain entry into my room. Dan knew a lot about me on this chance encounter. We had never met before that night, although he had very briefly seen me in the lift going up to my room hours before. He had done his homework on all well-established escorts at this time, which was very clear to me in the conversation that took place. Alright, so basically, Dan checked out this person who was doing this type of job, and when Dan met the person, well, let's just say it wasn't the normal business transaction. Dan allegedly did some very bad things. This person then goes on to say he was convicted of extortion in 2010. He said back then he was in an abusive situation, and it was, let's just say, ongoing. It seems like it was for some period of time. He then goes on to say something I once again have to say is kind of shocking. He says that he was threatened by an unknown individual that was clearly working on Dan's behalf. So we've got the allegations of the big one, the R word. Now we've got allegations that Dan didn't just threaten somebody, but hired somebody to threaten somebody that he allegedly committed these acts on. Seems like kicking someone when they're down, that you actually put on the floor. He said that he reported some things that were done against him, but the police pretty much, I guess, dropped the case. Then the point he makes, which I guess we could kind of map on some other things here, is that at a certain point, if the police aren't getting results, you give up. And then he says this: I wrestled so much about going public and putting this out there about what Dan did to me, but I cannot stay silent anymore. Waiting for someone or something to happen that will contribute to justice being served is a hopeless mindset. I've made many mistakes in my life, and I have been met with the consequences of those mistakes. It is about time that the people who actually did me wrong were held responsible as well, or at least that information's widely known. And then he even wraps it up in a nice little box for us and says clearly what his main point is. The overall message I want people to take away when reading this is I will not be held hostage by what Dan Wootton did to me or my past that he blatantly used against me to keep this buried. Right. So to make it more clear, what Dan did basically was, because this guy had a past, he said, we're going to bring that out in the light if you don't do what I say. I'm not sure exactly where Dan was working at that time in 2014, but I'm sure he had the power to bring something out there in the media, put a story out there, something like that. Safe bet. That's what happened here. So Dan was using his power as someone who could get information out to control this guy. Dan was using his power to get information out, false information about Johnny Depp, to help Amber's case and progress her career. And whatever else would come of that. And he says some words you might have heard in a similar fashion over the last couple of years. I'm sick and tired of disgusting individuals getting away with doing the most evil acts, and they are celebrated. This man is someone who commits the R word, and my memory is his crime scene. I was there, it happened to me, and I know the full impact this has had. I pray that everyone who's been hurt by this vicious, vile man eventually finds some kind of healing. Writing this has been painful. Kevin Sutherland, full name. Obviously, I do not want to get into my speculation on somebody's private life and what they do behind closed doors, but as we know, Dan had a boyfriend, and this person looks like somebody that might also have one. Yes, I am tiptoeing around rules and regulations on what I can and can't say. It's kind of fun, but also slightly time consuming. Let's just say he's someone I think might be Dan's type. So there it is. You might have seen my first video on this. I'm still trying to get all these facts in my head. A lot of this is coming in at once. This video was not exactly as fun and upbeat because I couldn't start laughing and getting into it and making jokes about Danny Boy reading these horrible allegations. Even if they're not true or partially true, the fact that they might be is still kind of disturbing because this is really bad stuff. As I said, kind of shocking. Anyway, let me know what you think down below. Doing shout outs, special thanks, things like that. Shout out to Carmen. She sent me a lot of articles, things like that over the last month or two. And if you're not subscribed here, consider it. If you don't, I'll be sad about it, but I'll get over it, make a new video, something like that. Done here for now. See you next time.